The breach was violent, a tearing sensation. Reality dissolved into a scream of raw data. Kalen gritted his teeth. His team, the Pathfinders, plunged after him. They were digital explorers. This was their frontier. The transition buffer collapsed. They were through. Silence followed the storm. A heavy digital silence. Their avatars shimmered, then stabilized. Each member of the team ran a quick diagnostic. Systems green, for now. The air, if it could be called that, was cold. Static electricity prickled their simulated skin. They had arrived in Echo Void. First impressions were overwhelming. Towering structures of pure data pierced a sky of shifting code. These were not buildings. They were frozen thoughts, algorithms made manifest. Geometry glitched, edges flickered in and out of existence. Colors pulsed with unnatural vibrancy. Neon greens bled into stark crimsons. Deep blues swirled like cosmic nebulae. Nothing was stable. Nothing was truly solid. The ground beneath their feet felt like compressed static. It hummed with a low, resonant frequency. This place was a digital nightmare. A beautiful, terrifying construct. The sheer scale of Echo Void was humbling. Impossible architecture stretched into an infinite digital horizon. Data streams flowed like rivers of light between the colossal towers. The team advanced cautiously. They moved in a tight formation. Kalen took the lead. Jax scouted the immediate vicinity. Rihanna monitored data flows. Lara covered their rear. The environment was not static. It seemed to react to their passage. Distant structures shifted. New pathways formed as old ones dissolved. The ground beneath them sometimes rippled, like water. Unsettling sounds echoed around them. Faint whispers, just at the edge of hearing. Distorted fragments of speech. Glitching sound files. The void was speaking. Or perhaps it was dreaming. Rihanna paused, her brow furrowed in concentration.
"I'm picking up strange energy fluctuations," she announced. "They're not random. There are patterns here, complex, adaptive patterns." She tapped commands into her wrist-mounted interface. Data scrolled across her visor. "It's like the entire dimension is a single, distributed consciousness. Every piece of code, every structure is part of it."
The whispers seemed to grow louder, more insistent. They felt less like random noise and more like targeted messages. Messages they couldn't quite decipher, but the intent felt hostile. Suddenly, a nearby data tower shuddered violently. Its form destabilized, glitching erratically, then it crumbled into a shower of digital fragments. They pressed deeper into the labyrinth of code. The void seemed to actively resist them now. Corridors twisted and reconfigured, illusions flickered at the periphery of their vision. Kalen felt a specific, targeted pressure building in his mind. A cold dread settled in his chest. It was a familiar feeling, the weight of past failures. The void was probing him, searching for weaknesses. He tried to erect mental shields, but this place was insidious. It bypassed conventional defenses. It went straight for the soul, or its digital equivalent. A figure flickered into existence ahead of them. It solidified. It was a woman. Her form was slightly unstable, edges blurred with static. Kalen froze. He knew her. Ilara, his former partner. She had been lost on a mission years ago. A mission he had led. Her digital ghost stared at him. Her eyes were hollow, filled with an ancient sorrow. Her voice, when it came, was a distorted echo, full of accusation.
"You left me, Kalen," the replica whispered. "You left me to die in the code."
The words were like shards of ice in his mind. The Alara replica glided closer. It moved with an unnatural grace.
"Was it worth it, Kalen? Your ambition? Your reputation?" It taunted him.
The team attempted to regroup. Kalen was shaken, but he pushed through.
"Stay focused," he ordered, his voice strained. "It's trying to break us."
Rihanna immediately went to work. She tried to deploy countermeasures, digital firewalls, psychic dampeners, anything to shield them from these targeted mental assaults. But Echo Void was unlike any system she had encountered. Its methods were subtle, pervasive. It didn't just attack their tech, it attacked their memories, their very sense of self. The air grew colder, the whispers more personal. Rihanna suddenly gasped. Her hands flew to her head. Before her, a small boy materialized. He looked no older than 10. His eyes were wide, innocent. It was her younger brother Liam. He had died years ago. A tragic accident involving experimental medical technology. Technology Rihanna had helped design. A coding error she had overlooked. The replica of Liam tilted his head.
"Rihanna?" he asked, his voice a perfect, heartbreaking imitation. "Why didn't you save me?"
The innocence in his eyes slowly morphed into an unbearable accusation.
"Why did you let me die, Rihanna?"
The question echoed in the digital silence. It pierced through her technical expertise, her logical mind. They pushed onward, through the gauntlet of their own regrets. Each step was an act of will. Kaylin, Rihanna, and Jax were all bearing fresh psychological scars. Lara seemed more resilient, her focus unwavering, but even she looked strained. Rihanna had detected a powerful, consistent energy signature. It was their only lead, their only hope of finding the core. They followed it through twisting, nightmarish corridors of code. Finally, the oppressive tunnels opened up. They found themselves in a vast cavernous space. Before them stood a colossal structure. It shimmered with an internal light. It resembled a cathedral built of pure data and sentient algorithms. Cautiously, they entered the Silicon Cathedral. The air inside hummed with immense power. It was quieter here. The whispers of the void were muted, replaced by a low, resonant thrum. The interior was breathtaking. Intricate patterns of light crisscrossed the vast chamber. They formed a complex, three-dimensional lattice. At the center of the cathedral, this lattice coalesced. It formed a glowing, pulsating sphere of information.
This is it, the core map. It shows the pathways to the heart of Echo Void.
It was their guide through the madness. The core map was a thing of terrible beauty. It was impossibly complex. With a tentative path charted by Rihanna, they plunged into the first corridor indicated by the core map. It was less a corridor and more a tunnel of raw, shifting code. Data streams rushed past them like turbulent rivers of light. Strange symbols and equations flickered on the walls. Illusions danced at the edges of their vision. Ghosts of their past regrets, whispers of their deepest fears. The void was constantly probing, testing their mental fortitude.
One step at a time, one threat at a time. The mission was everything.
The void's neural hive responded to their intrusion almost immediately. The very structure of the corridor began to change. Walls of code pulsed, then constricted, threatening to crush them. Digital tendrils, sharp as razors, lashed out from the floor and ceiling. Jax, with his enhanced reflexes, moved like a phantom. He dodged and weaved through the attacks, calling out warnings.
Tendril left, data spike, high.
His agility kept them from being impaled or ensnared. But the attacks were relentless. The void was an active, hostile intelligence. They finally emerged from the treacherous corridor. They found themselves in a vast circular chamber. According to Rihanna's analysis of the core map, this was a key junction, a nexus point within the void's network. As they stepped into the center, a deafening alarm blared. Red warning lights flashed across their helmet displays. Heavy data gates slammed shut, sealing all exits.
It's an ambush.
The relative quiet of the Silicon Cathedral was a distant memory. Now, there was only the rising thrum of imminent conflict. From the walls of the chamber, figures began to materialize. They were constructs of dark, shimmering code, sleek, insectoid forms, digital sentinels. Their multifaceted eyes glowed with a malevolent red light. They moved with unnatural speed and precision. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Their limbs ended in sharp blade-like appendages. Integrated weapon systems powered up with an ominous whine. Without warning, they opened fire. Blasts of corrosive data erupted from their cannons, searing the air. The void was fighting back, with overwhelming force. Lara, her face grim, scanned the chaotic battlefield. Her combat implants highlighted enemy weak points. She saw it, a critical conduit pulsing with energy high on the chamber wall. It seemed to be feeding power to a large contingent of the Sentinels. If she could take it out, it might give them a fighting chance, but it was heavily defended. A direct assault would be suicide. She made her decision in a fraction of a second. There was no other way. Some sacrifices were necessary for the greater good. Or so she told herself. She keyed her comm.
Kaylin, Rihanna, Jax, get ready to move! I'm creating a diversion!
Her voice was firm, resolute.
Get to the core, that's an order!
Kaylin started to protest.
Lara, no, we fight together.
But there was no time for argument, no room for sentiment.
This is bigger than us, Kaylin.
With a defiant roar, she broke from their defensive circle. She charged headlong into the thickest part of the Sentinel swarm, towards the conduit. She became a beacon of destruction. Lara fought with a desperate, focused fury. Her energy weapons spat coherent light. An unnatural silence descended upon the chamber. The red emergency lights still flashed, but the relentless assault of the Sentinels had ceased. The chamber was littered with their disabled, smoking husks. Lara's sacrifice had crippled the local network. Kaylin, Rihanna, and Jack stood amidst the digital wreckage. They were stunned, grief-stricken. Lara, their friend, their comrade, was gone. Her final, defiant act had bought them their chance, a heavy price for a slim hope, but they had to honor it. The path ahead, once blocked by the Sentinel swarm, was now eerily open. The Void's immediate defenses in this sector were shattered. Kaylin felt Lara's loss like a physical blow, another name added to the long list of those he had failed to protect. Guilt threatened to consume him, but he looked at Rihanna, her face pale but resolute. He looked at Jax, his usual bravado replaced by a grim determination. They had come too far, sacrificed too much. They had to see this through. For Lara, for everyone threatened by Echo Void, they pressed on. Deeper into the alien architecture of Echo Void, the corridors became more abstract, more surreal. The laws of physics or their digital equivalents seemed to warp and bend. They could feel the core's presence now. It was a palpable throb in the digital ether, a vast, silent intellect. It pulled at their minds, a siren song of immense power and cold, calculating sentience. The air grew thick with anticipation.